So welcome again, everybody. My name is Lisa Hermes. I'm the president of the McKinney Chamber, and I'm glad that you're joining us today for our CEO series. Just a few housekeeping items. I think everybody's pretty much done this already, but if you would rename yourself, put your name and your company name. That's our new virtual name tags in 2020 and 2021. So please do that so we know who's with us today. And also, please use the chat feature. As we talk today with our featured CEO, Joe Minissale, we want to hear some questions from the audience and want to get your questions answered. So if you've got some questions, please use that, please chat. Also, if you want to share your contact information in chat, it's a great way to connect with other people, even though, we're not in the same room, but we're in the same meeting. And then before we get started, I get to introduce our sponsor for our CEO series, and that is the Body Shop Collision Repair. And we've got Jessica Ratton with us today, and we are just so pleased that they are sponsoring this series. But the Body Shop has been a major investor in our organization for quite some time. They really do believe in supporting businesses in McKinney and really throughout all of North Texas with their different locations and their involvement in all the communities in which they have a business. They are a family owned and operated company. And if you know them, if you've ever had to have your car worked on like I have, they are definitely known for their customer service and really meeting the needs of their customers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Ratton to say a few words as our sponsor today. Oh, and by the way, Jessica is on our board of directors as well at the Chamber. Hi, Jessica.
Thank you. I love when Lisa introduces us because then you don't really have to say much. So,
sorry.
No, I love it. So, no, we're just so happy to sponsor the CEO series. That's one of our favorite events. So basically, Lisa kind of said it all, but we're open still, and we're taking all the precautionary measures to make sure that everything's sanitized and social distancing and everything else. So anyways, we're happy to be here. And if you guys have any questions, I'll put my information on the chat.
Thank you, Jessica, and the Body Shop. All right, so we're going to get our show started. This is probably one of my most, I think, kind of fun events that we do, either in person or on Zoom, because we get to chat with someone and get to know them a little more and learn more about their story. And we like to consider it kind of I like to consider it like an Oprah style interview. So it's very relaxed and conversational, and hopefully we'll get to learn a lot more about Joe. So let me introduce our featured CEO. So Joe Minissale was born in Pennsylvania. He has a Bachelor of Science in Finance from the University of Delaware and an MBA from Missouri State University. He's married to his beautiful wife, Melanie, for 30 years, and they have two sons, Matt and Ben, and they're both financial analysts. So apparently they got that from their father. They have a career in acute hospital industry. He has a career in acute hospital industry, including CFO and then VP of Finance and Division CFO, managing finance and operations for multiple hospitals and physician practices over the years. But since 2010, he's been the president of Methodist McKinney Hospital and part of our community. A lot of things have happened under his watch. One that he's very proud of is the DFW's top 100 workplaces. That their hospital has been named on that list 5 times. So it's great that the work environment and the culture, we'll be talking more about that a little bit later in our conversation with Joe, but obviously they've been recognized for that. But also Joe is an active member of Cottonwood Creek Church, and he is a past chamber board chairman. So I have had the privilege of working with Joe one-on-one in that capacity. And he now currently serves on the McKinney Economic Development Board. So with that, help me welcome Joe Minissale.
Good morning, Lisa.
Perfect. Let's spotlight Joe now. So Joe, Okay, so let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your professional journey. So, you've got a background in finance. You've been in the healthcare industry. Just kind of how did you get to where you are today?
So I am definitely not the kid who, went to college and knew what they wanted to do and have followed that path. I've stumbled and bumbled and winged it. And I think I'm exactly where I was supposed to be all along, but it was not a straight and simple path. So right out of college, I took a job with Ford Motor Company, and they moved me from Pennsylvania down to Dallas. And it was a kind of a field rep job. So it was a little bit of sales and relationship management. And uh, I I actually just felt like they move you around the country a lot, and I decided that I didn't want to do that. I had a degree in finance, and my brother-in-law was a hospital CFO, and I said, I think I'll do that. So it was really scary, Lisa, because I now had kids and I was making good money. I had a promising career, and I chose to start over. So completely changing careers
Yeah.
was scary. So I got a job as a financial analyst for a hospital company, and then I went back to school to get my MBA. So I couldn't. Uh, I definitely think as much schooling as you can get, keep going, never stop. That was really hard too, because I did it when I was in a new job with two small children, but it was worth the work. Um, and then I had, as a CFO, as a hospital CFO, where I ended up, I had some great mentors who realized that I didn't like to stay in my lane. Lisa, I know this is going to shock you. Um, I didn't want to just play with the numbers. I wanted to do marketing and operations and strategy. And I had two great CEOs that let me uh, get into all different aspects of the business. And I loved doing everything. I just didn't like the numbers uh, from sun up to sundown. So I did it all. And then ultimately, the best things that ever happened to me was I got laid off. They were downsizing. I was in a regional position and they were downsizing. And my wife kept saying, well, why don't you be a CEO? And I said, no, I like being a CFO. Doctors and nurses are scary. And and when I got laid off, I took a job in operations as a group vice president, and ultimately that landed me as president here in McKinney. And the thing I never wanted to do was where I felt I was finally home.
That's great. Yeah, it's really, interesting. Does anyone's career path, is it ever just a straight line? It feels like it takes all the different things that we do kind of lead us to the next step, and it's usually kind of a jagged line. Um, So one of the things that you kind of have been known for in your career is being able to take a failing hospital or a failing organization and really stabilize their operation, stabilize where they're at, and really turn it around towards a thriving organization. What's your approach when you are taking on a challenge like that, coming into something that's got to be challenging?
Oh yeah, I do love. I've done bankrupt and near failing and failing several different times, and I actually love those challenges. A few things that I found work well. First thing, don't walk in and make changes. I would develop the relationships before I try and actually do any work. And even with our new managers here, I tell them your goal is not to do any work or change anything. First, you got to develop the relationships with the people, and get to know them, get to know the team. But then, because I'm finance, my background in finance. And even if you're not, I think the Rattans, as you know, as business owners could tell you, I do a deep financial forensic analysis. Before anything else, I'd look at all the revenue detail, all the payroll detail, all the accounts payable detail, all the AR aging. I want to know everything on the balance sheet and what's in it. So I would ask for reports and bury myself in them until I reviewed it all, because looking at that is going to raise a lot of questions. It's going to teach you things, where the money is going, where it's not, where it's coming from, and where it's not, and raise a lot of questions. And then from there, it's start talking to people. So now I've got to know them and I know the financials. Now I want to start talking to people and figure out, what can they tell me? Ask a lot of questions, and ultimately then I'd go with forming teams, action teams, develop priorities, get action plans, and do the implementation. But before you, one of the biggest things before you start the implementation, communicate the vision again, and communicate the vision, and tell the team the why. If you ask people to change things, generally change is hard. It's almost always hard. But if you don't tell them the why, then you will fail. We need to do this differently, and here's why. So that's my 2-minute version of turnaround.
Yeah.
Did that hit the mark?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, really that starting with the relationships, I think, is so key and crucial, because it builds the trust, right, with the team, that they trust where you're leading them. And I love that you said, you got to communicate the vision, and communicate the vision, because it takes time, right, to help people see where you're going. Kind of shifting gears just a little bit, because I know you, and I know that you're a very service-oriented person. Obviously you're successful in your career, but you also love giving back to your community, and you have a passion for that. So tell us a little bit about, why this is important to you, why giving back is important to you, and how do you choose which way you're going to contribute? Because there's only so much time in a day, and there's lots of places to plug in. So how did you choose the places that you wanted to plug in?
Well, just like my career, Lisa, I didn't really choose. I just put myself out there and winged it, and tried this and tried that. And, I tried to be open to serving. When I got asked, I tried to step up where I could. And sometimes I was like, this isn't really my thing. But, I would finish my term and do what I committed to, until ultimately you try enough things, you might find something that, is your heart, your passion, or where your skill set lies. And the chamber helped me, this is a shameless plug for this audience, but, the chamber helped me a lot. If you remember, I started going to the Government and Legislative Issues Committee. Mm-hmm. And I had already had a passion for advocacy, and had done some through, professionally for the hospital industry. And then I found, partly through you and John Ratton and John, that, things like education and advocating for my city, I really had a passion for that. And I love doing that. I love fighting for McKinney, or I love fighting for education. I was really proud, in fact, that we got, how long did we push, Lisa, for getting Collin College a 4-year degree?
A long time.
And, getting that education funding restored some last session was huge. But I've served on lots of other things that I served just because I was asked to. I didn't love it, but that was okay. I didn't have to love it until I found something I loved. And I love being on the chamber board and the EDC because they probably match more of my skill sets.
Yeah. So can you share with us, since you're on the EDC board, I know there's probably things you can't share with us, but there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in McKinney right now. Is there anything you can?
Well, we've got an exciting announcement we're going to be making next week. So I'll just go ahead and tell you. Just
good. Yay. You all heard it first.
Just kidding. So I'm sorry, what was the question about the EDC?
Just, kind of since you've been on the board, I mean, this year, we were talking earlier, kind of chatting about, what it's like to work in a global pandemic, but there's really been some exciting things happening with the EDC, and can you share with us what's happened over the last?
Yeah, so I would say it's really been a transformation, a little bit kind of like a turnaround. The personnel, the strategy, the direction, nearly everything has changed since I've been on the board in a very positive way. I think the team is just incredible, and the things that are happening, the city staff, city council, and the EDC staff are working to do really amazing things. I'm just proud. The Innovation Fund has been a neat thing. It's kind of Shark Tanky. We're going after more high tech, and we're putting small amounts of money into a lot of different little pots. And some may not go anywhere, some may do okay, but we may find 2 or 3 that become huge successes. And that's a different approach than just trying to get that next company that's going to create 100 or 200 jobs. So that's been fun. And certainly the one of the ones is near and dear to my heart is the District 121 office building with Kaizen. That's a new approach for the city to have a significant Class A office building where we're helping get a spec development Class A building.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've seen companies, really good opportunities, pass up McKinney because we didn't have a big enough, nice enough, right location place ready to go. So I think that will be a tremendous asset.
Yeah, it's going to change the way it looks when you're driving into McKinney, for sure. Change the landscape. So we have a question from the audience, and they want to know, how long have you been on the board? So I'm assuming the EDC board.
I think this is year 4. We're starting year 4.
Very good. And you were on the chamber board for a long time.
A few years.
Yes. That's what happens at the chamber. You step up to serve, and we're like, sure, yes.
Well, and leadership McKinney was really a huge for me to get to know more people and learn about things like all the different organizations and what they do, and help find where I fit best.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit earlier about, the hospital. You've been on the DFW's top 100 workplaces 5 times. So tell us a little bit about your management style and how you're able to lead an organization and create that type of positive culture.
Okay. So I'd first say I'm definitely collaborative. That would be a great word to describe. I work with a lot of different subject matter experts. In our business, we have, an expert on lab, an expert on pharmacy, an expert on, nursing and so forth. And they're the ones that know their people and their subject matter better than I ever will. and so I depend on them heavily for their guidance. And then I would say I like to give people a lot of responsibility and authority, but there's a high level of accountability. So, you know, I think you let people do their job, and our job as a senior leader is really to help define the strategy, and I do a lot of business development. I have to communicate the vision to everybody and ultimately set the expectations and hold people accountable. And I keep saying accountability because that's maybe one of the hardest things in leadership is, and one of the most common failures is failure to have high accountability. But the other thing is servant leadership. We want all of our managers, their primary job is to help their people succeed, to remove obstacles and help them solve problems, not to manage the people, but to serve them and lead them. So I guess lastly, I would say I'm pretty passionate about what I do. I like to have a lot of fun. But I'm transparent. So 1 minute we may be all serious and about, hey, we failed on this, we need to do better. But we can also have a lot of fun and don't take yourself too seriously.
Y'all do have a lot of fun. As someone who's been able to have the honor of judging your Halloween pumpkin decorating contests at the hospital, there is definitely a spirit of fun amongst the employees. Yeah, and competition.
Oh yes, we love to have competitions here.
Yeah. So we have another question from the audience. So you mentioned that you love all aspects of the business, and you specified marketing. How has your approach to marketing the hospital and reaching new clients changed with the lack of person-to-person interactions with COVID?
Well, Nicole Adame is she's in charge of community relations, marketing, and ultimately our physician development. So she spends every day out there trying to work with the doctor's office. And it's not like our number one customer is the surgeon. As a surgical hospital with the surgery center, we depend on that relationship with the surgeon's office. But that means being able to communicate with the surgeon, their physician assistant, their office manager, their scheduler, and Nicole has those relationships and has, like John said, out in their offices all day, every day, and that has been severely restricted due to COVID. So you try and do email, you do phone calls. If they'll let you in, you go in. But it's been a challenge. On the other hand, we tag team it. I try and catch the doctors when they're here. And so I may be also texting them and emailing them and calling them if I can't catch them face to face. So it's hard, but a lot harder for Nicole than it is for me, because ultimately the doctors have to come to the hospital to do surgery eventually.
Yeah, so explain to the audience too, for those who may not know about the hospital, kind of what is Methodist McKinney Hospital?
So we are a surgical hospital. Our primary, our number one business is orthopedics, but we do spine surgery, general surgery, urology, and with our surgery center in Craig Ranch, we do a lot of pain management, and we do GI, a little bit of ENT, But our bread and butter is orthopedic surgery, pain management, spine, which is musculoskeletal disease. So when people see us, they're often either have, a bone problem or a gallbladder or an appendix or a colonoscopy, hernias. That's our bread and butter. And we do have 9 physical therapy clinics today, and we're adding 3 more. Officially, I'll announce this, effective April 1, Edge Physical Therapy, which is owned and led by Shane Hernandez, Leadership McKinney class of 2014. Great class, best class ever. Is officially partnering with Methodist McKinney Hospital and Greater Therapy Centers. So we will be 12 physical therapy clinics strong as of April 1, which again is part of that musculoskeletal disease.
I love how you work in the shameless chamber plug and leadership plug. That was I caught it. I loved it. So another this kind of is on the same line. I got another question in chat, and it's a great question. How have you had to change your leadership or management style during COVID? What are some of the hardest things you've had to do, and what are some of the silver linings during this difficult time? There's
Great question.
That question, but it's
so, just like every one of you, we had to completely change many of our processes that worked perfectly. And sometimes we had to change them 3, 4, 5, 6 times due to the it could have been because of the changing situation, or because, the way we did it worked okay, but it wasn't efficient enough. Or so I learned that going through a crisis, you have to approach things differently. And so we were in a lot of cases in daily meetings, or sometimes multiple times a day, for weeks and weeks and weeks that we weren't used to. And so it was hard because having to get in meetings every single day, change the way we do business, and then come back tomorrow and revisit it again. So what that required is a ton of communication, because as Nicole could tell you, that has a downstream effect on the doctor's offices, on the schedulers, on the surgeons, on the patients. And we have to communicate. And it was hard. It was hard for them to keep up with, I thought we were doing it this way. No, that was last week.
That was 24 hours ago.
Yeah. So it required a much better, much more frequent meetings and much better communications than we were used to doing in a more static environment. The other thing, the good takeaway was, we learned a lot about communicating better. And one of the things we do now, we used to have when we were small, we had town halls where we'd pull all the employees in and, have a meeting quarterly. And now we have people in 13 different locations, and they work all different shifts, and they might be on vacation, or they might be sick, or they might be working, or who knows, sleeping. And so we now do virtual town halls, and if you can't do it live, then we send the link out via email. And during the peak of the COVID crisis, we were doing virtual town halls once a week. And I say the peak, back in March and April, when everything was changing rapidly and people were scared for their jobs. And then by June, we were able to go every other week. And now we're doing a monthly town hall virtually. But we found that's a better way to communicate when you've got several hundred people in different work different shifts and different times in different locations. So I'll say that is a positive takeaway.
I think a lot of us can relate to that change. It's like plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it's, yeah, communication is definitely the key in all of that. So you kind of along somewhat the same lines we're talking about this past year. Obviously the challenges with COVID, people worried about their jobs, worried about their health, their family's health. But we've also had, an economic downturn. We've had the Black Lives Matter movement. We had a very divisive presidential election. How has this impacted your business and your customers? And as a hospital, how has this year impacted your messaging and your work in supporting the diverse business community?
So that's a great question. I actually think sometimes out of the worst circumstances, I told you I'm where I'm at now because I got laid off. Who knew that was going to be a blessing? One of the things we did is we formed a diversity and inclusion committee. And before that happened, I'll say that I just was curious of the view of the Black males in particular that I knew, and if they were willing to share with me some of their personal life experiences that, paralleled what we were seeing on the news, that was maybe the main thing that stirred everybody up. And when I talked to about 5 or 6 different guys I know, what I thought was maybe the media highlighting the worst things in society that maybe aren't that common. It was very common, and not just past, but recent, very recent, and here in this, North Texas community. So anyway, that told me that we needed to do something to make a difference, and that why I think we don't have problems at all in our workplace. We have an extremely diverse workplace here. We have people from probably 40 or 50 different countries working here every day, and all different races and religions and political views. But I thought we all got along, and everybody was respectful at work. And I realized that we needed to do more, be more intentional. And so we formed a diversity and inclusion committee, and we're trying to use that committee to help address, social injustice issues. And we're also trying to be much more intentional, and we're trying to push our people, some of our people who are minorities have been raised and learned to keep their mouths shut, and to just, regardless of what happens, you don't say anything, including at work. And that really hurts my heart to know that somebody maybe was inappropriate and disrespectful in our workplace, and I didn't know about it, and we couldn't take action. So we've tried to reinforce that while you may not want to make waves, we have a duty to act, and we have to try and flesh that out and not assume everything's okay.
Yeah.
Does that kind of answer that question?
Yeah. Well, and I know you and I had some conversations back in the summer, and and I think you talked about the town halls that you do, and I think that really helped to communicate and bring, to listen to other people. And that's why when you're building a culture, it's so important. I think, you said it earlier about when you go into a hospital or go into an organization, you build those relationships first, and those relationships really you're kind of the backbone of an organization. It's the people. So Thank you. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
approach to that. Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit because I'm going to ask you a question about a topic that I know is very near and dear to your heart, and that's your family. So I know that your family is very important to you, and I obviously love watching you and Melanie because y'all are like the happiest couple, and it's like real. You know how some people post stuff on Facebook and you think it's, they actually like are the real deal. So tell us a little bit about how you balance family life and I mean, you've got a lot on your plate at the hospital, you've got a lot, from community service, but you make a lot of time for your family.
Thank you. Well, we are definitely still in love after 30 years. We didn't get to celebrate our 30th anniversary with the trip like I had hoped last September, but we're going to do that. But yeah, I'm really lucky to have met my soulmate. I know that I do 90% of the work and that she does 90% of the work. And if either around the house, and if either one of us does any less, it won't get done. We always laugh about that because everybody feels like they're doing more than their share, right, Lisa? And if you don't, then you're probably not doing enough. But we're definitely a team in every day, in every sense of the word. I've overcommitted myself at times, whether it was graduate school or, teaching Sunday school and coaching the kids' teams and all that at the same time, or trying to be on 2 community boards at the same time with a fairly full-time job. Melanie picks up the slack for me. On the other hand, I know when I get home, if I had to, work late or do something after hours, I don't get to get home and sit on the couch and pick up a book or watch a game until my chores are done. Because, we're a team and that's not fair to her. So the good thing is I don't like to sit around much, Lisa. So, but yeah, we're just a team, and she has to put me first and I have to put her first every day.
That's very good advice. So tell us something about you that most people don't know.
Let's see. I'm a yes man. Have you ever seen that movie, Jim Carrey, Yes Man?
No, sorry.
No?
No.
Okay. So the idea of the movie was he met a guy, motivational speaker, whatever, who said, you need to say yes to everything. You can't say no to anything anybody asks you. Hey, will you come help me paint my house? Yes. Hey, will you serve on the chamber board? Yes. Hey, do you want to go skydiving today? Yes. And to me, that's kind of a little bit of a personal philosophy because you don't know what you're missing if you don't try new things. Do you want to try eat these monkey brains? Yes, I'll try them. I've made many new friends. I've got to do amazing things. I got to go to the Masters tournament. I got to fly on a guy's private plane and go skiing with them in Aspen and you name it, just by saying yes. And I got to serve on lots of boards and do leadership McKinney and I like to say yes. And I am a man of many, many loves. I like to do everything and try everything. I haven't done skydiving yet, though, Lisa. But if someone asked me, yes, well.
So what are we doing tomorrow, Joe? What's on your calendar?
Depends who asked me what to do. Somebody asked me to go to Montana with them tomorrow and climb a mountain, I'll say yes.
How are those monkey brains?
Haven't tried them yet. Are you going to cook them for me?
No. I might go skydiving with you, but
Yeah. So I'm an adventurer. I'm definitely an adventurer, and I will do most anything.
so how, with everything, how do you recharge? How do you re-energize yourself?
Let's see. So I love to cook and do yard work. That really helps me relax. Excuse me. But yeah, I like to cook. I like to do yard work, anything physical. I would actually probably enjoy shoveling dirt. But I love sports, participating in them or watching them. I love to be with my family, my boys and my wife. I love to read. I can't get enough reading in. I love to volunteer, as you know, serve.
Well, if you love shoveling dirt, I think John Ratton has a farm and he could probably use an extra set of hands. So just say yes when he asks.
If John wants me to come up there and break horses or milk the cows or ride the tractor and mow it, I'll say yes. Or shoot the hogs.
So we have another question from the audience. So this is kind of back on, obviously talking about the COVID and pandemic and, talking about the challenges that you faced this year. What are some of the lessons that you've learned? And are there any changes that will remain post-COVID?
Well, definitely the virtual town halls and learning better ways to communicate. That's one of the big changes. I don't know that COVID changed a lot for us. I'm not going to discount that we do things differently, but I think it made us stronger. I think it made our team stronger. But we actually started an emerging leader program because I realized we've promoted a lot of people through the years. We've taken a lot of, clinical staff, technical staff, and made them into leads or supervisors or ultimately managers. And usually we hadn't been really training them for management until they become a manager. And so I'm really excited that we started our emerging leader program. And that's basically investing in people. And we've always done a good job of promoting people up, but now I think we're doing a better job of developing people earlier on when for leadership. So that's new. I don't, like I said, I don't think it was COVID driven. I think the diversity and inclusion is a big thing. We just are much more intentional about trying to be aware of things that we weren't paying attention to. We're actually starting 2021 in much better shape than we did 2020, believe it or not. Last year, we invested a lot in some technology. A lot of businesses weren't able to do that. We were very blessed. We bought a new MRI and three surgical robots. So it was kind of a weird year for us. We feel like we're coming out stronger and smarter than ever.
I think a theme, as you've talked about, getting laid off or, going through a challenging year like we did in 2020, it's the challenges that make us a better person. Wouldn't you say probably how we?
Yeah, and financially it wasn't a good year, and we're still probably down. We're still probably down, 10 to 15% from a year ago. But I think just as a team, our people, our organization is stronger, smarter, and better positioned. But you know me, Lisa, I'm the eternal optimist. I get really mad when we fail because we did. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, all right, how do we fix it? Let's look forward. Don't look backward.
We're definitely looking forward in 2021. All right, well, we've got another question from the audience. So optimism is the key here. How optimistic are you for our collective health with the vaccine? What do you think of the future of our global health looks like?
Well, I think there's good news and bad news there. As we've seen, the global nature of the world with all the travel, it's perfect for future pandemics like this, and they're going to continue to be another thing, which is scary because then we'll go through this cycle again. But the good news is we've learned so much, and the ability, some people are very skeptical, but the ability to rapidly develop a vaccine and deploy it is huge. Sorry, did I say that like Trump? But what we've learned just in, let's say, the last 30 days, if you look at Dallas County and Collin County and Denton County and Methodist McKinney, we did vaccines now for 7 weeks. And each week we got better, more efficient, and smarter at it. And the same thing with developing the vaccines and distributing them from the manufacturer to the patient. So that will be really helpful for dealing with the next situation. I'm a little frustrated, not a little, a lot frustrated that a lot of people don't want to wear masks and social distance. If you look at, I could show you data, every single holiday, 4th of July was a new record high in COVID about 7 to 10 days later. Then we set another new record after a couple weeks after Labor Day, and then another new record after Thanksgiving, and another new record after Christmas and New Year's. And right now, the hospitals were overwhelmed in our area a few weeks ago. We couldn't get a patient with a heart attack, a STEMI, out of our ER to another area hospital because they were all too full. And that's horrible. And I think Sunday night, people are going to have Super Bowl gatherings and not wear masks. And it's just stupid. Horrible word to say, huh? But we haven't learned enough there. But on all the other fronts, I think we're in much better shape to deal with this going forward. Is that fair?
That's fair, yeah. And unfortunately, it's the truth, right? That it's scary when you think our hospitals are over capacity to handle things, and so doing something simple like wearing a mask can make a difference. We can all make a difference. So we're kind of winding down a little bit, but I want to ask you something. Now, do you have any advice that you would give your younger self?
Okay, I have the 2 best lessons. I know I didn't know these when I was younger. Is don't ever place blame. I told you I'm an analyst at heart. I like to analyze business and find where the issues are. But when I was younger, I would say, oh, well, so and so dropped the ball, or this area messed up. I would never want to do that publicly now. Now I admit, if it's our senior management team behind closed doors, we have to understand, what happened. But when we get into a room and we're trying to figure out how do we solve a problem, what went wrong, and fix it, we never ever say, well, here's who did what wrong. It's more about what failed and how do we fix it. And secondly, a lot of times, especially as a young manager, someone would come to you, oh, so this happened, so-and-so did this. And I would take that and be upset with what they did and what happened and go after it. And I found out way too many times that there's always another side of the story. No matter what you hear, there's always another side to the story. So try not to act on something you hear from one source and get the other side of the story. Other than that, be bold, take risks, fail, read journals and educational books. You cannot do enough reading on making yourself better, whether it's just, self-improvement books or specific to your subject matter and expertise. Get a mentor and learn from that mentor and network with people in your field.
So speaking of books, what's the latest book you've read or one that you would recommend us to go on Amazon and purchase?
Well, one I'm reading right now is Straight A Leadership, and it's written by Quint Studer, and it's really meant for the healthcare industry, but it is anybody in management, anyone, all those same concepts would. I think it's the best one ever, and I'm reading it for the second time, and we're going over it with our emerging leader class and our managers for a second time with our managers. We did it about 8 years ago. So Straight A Leadership with Quint Studer.
All right. So one more question from the audience, and then we'll wrap this up, but it's another COVID related question. I guess it's on everybody's mind. As a business, because we have all business leaders here on the call today, as a business, what can we do to keep our community employees safe?
So, of course, vaccination, encourage and support vaccination. And certainly, you can lead by example. You could provide education for those who are reading a lot of the myths about it. But we found that our masking and hand washing and social distancing, we've probably had, 20 or 30 employees that have become COVID positive over the last year. And I think only one of those actually got it at work from a patient or another employee, one in over a year. And we probably, treated thousands of people a month. And that's because of masking and hand washing and social distancing. So those measures work very well, and they're easy to do. So don't get into a meeting and take off your masks, and don't eat lunch too close to each other.
Not yet, right?
Nope.
Not yet. All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time to share with us your journey and what you've accomplished, the words of wisdom. I guess we're going to go skydiving tomorrow. I'll clear my calendar for that.
Let's do it.
I also want to thank the Body Shop again. We appreciate your support of the Chamber, of the organization, and of programs like this where we get to learn from people in our community who have done so much and have so much to share with us. And also want to just give you just a couple of things that are coming up. Would love to see you again on Zoom for our government and legislative issues meeting. It's actually tomorrow at 8:15, so you can come back and join us. Our legislative consultant, Angela Hale, will be on. As you know, the Texas legislature is in session, so she'll be providing some updates for us about things that are happening. That's open to any chamber member. So if you'd like to attend, let us know and we'll send you that Zoom link. We also have our young professionals have a kickoff event, a networking event. It's going to be on Zoom, but it's going to be fun. It's where we'll put people in breakout rooms, so you'll really get to interact with people more personally than just everybody in one large Zoom room. But that is February the 16th. So there's no charge to attend if you're 40 and under. There is an age limit on that one. But you can register and get that Zoom link and participate and get to meet other young professionals in McKinney. And then also, if you want to learn more about how you can utilize some of the benefits that we have here at the Chamber online, please join us for a Zoom orientation on February 18th. So just a few things coming up, and then mark your calendars because our annual community awards is going to be April 22nd, and it's going to be virtual, but we've got a lot of things planned to make it fun and ways that you can actually interact this year. So we're taking what we have, which is having to go to a virtual platform, but we're making it the best that we can. So you'll be seeing more information about that rolling out. So with that, I'm just going to say goodbye. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks again to the Body Shop. Thank you, Joe. And I look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow at our GLI committee. Bye, everybody.